Hello, everyone. My name is Rosalind Walker. I am an elected parent rep for Lasalle Language Academy, and I'm running for re-election. I would appreciate your vote. So I wanted to take a moment to talk about something very dear to me, and that is the disproportionate math achievement of our African American and Latinx students. I have been talking about this on the LSC since 2019. And the way that I first became aware of the achievement gap is my oldest son. At that time, Lasalle had a program where the 8th graders would leave Lasalle one afternoon a week and take algebra at Robert Morris College. And that was a really good program. There were pros and cons to it, but that was the program. My oldest son was in that program, and through that time, I learned that there was only one African American child in that program and only one Latinx child in that program. And once I learned that, I began to do some research, and I found that for some reason, LaSalle has this big achievement gap between our Caucasian and Asian students in math and our African American and Latino and Latinx students in math. So I've continued to talk about that concern in 2020. I've continued to talk about it in 2021. But something interesting happened this year in 2022. Two parents approached the EDC and asked us to look into what was happening in 8th grade math. And basically, the parents told us that it was 2 separate classrooms up there and that all the white kids and Asian kids were in one class and all the Black and Latinx kids were in another. That's what the parent told us. So I contacted Mr. Graves and I asked him for the stats on that. And this is what we got, if you can see. Of our 8th grade students, 100% of the Asian students are in algebra. 83% of the white students are in algebra. 36% of our Black students and only 42% of our Latinx students are in algebra. And the rest of them are in 8th grade math. Okay, so let's talk. I've gotten some criticism from revealing these statistics. And some of that criticism is, well, those kids, they're still in 8th grade math, so they're in grade level math. That's not a big deal. Well, that's not exactly accurate because, of course, they're in 8th grade math. They don't qualify for the remedial policy at CPS. You only have 2 classrooms. If one is algebra, the only other place you can physically put those children is in 8th grade math. That does not mean that just because they're physically in the 8th grade classroom that they are able to do 8th grade level work. That just means that you physically have no other place to put those children. So yes, they are physically in the 8th grade classroom. Our test scores indicate that they are not performing at the 8th grade level. One of the other concerns I have is when I hear teachers, and it's not a lot of teachers, but recently I heard a teacher publicly state that this is not a big deal and that this is not something to be concerned about. Parents, this is a big deal. This is something to be concerned about. If the racial groups were reversed, it would be chaos. So let me just explain why this is a big deal. If you take algebra in 8th grade, okay, and if you pass the algebra exit exam at the end of the school year, that means that you can start high school with geometry. And you can end high school with a higher level math because you started high school with a higher level math. If you do not start high school in geometry, you start at algebra and you end in a lower level math because you started in a lower level math. There has been research out there done that the number one reason why minorities don't get STEM degrees is because they start college math deficient. That is the number one reason why they don't get STEM degrees. So please don't let anyone fool you that this is not a big deal. It is a big deal. And what is a bigger deal is that this has been happening for years. Now, I want to address another criticism I have. I've had people say, well, you shouldn't make those stats public because they make the school look bad. I just want to help us, remind us of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. As he was fighting for civil rights, he got that same critique. People told him, oh, you shouldn't do these marches because you make the South look bad. Or you shouldn't do this boycott because you make the city look bad. Number one, it's easy to pay more attention to the delivery of the message just so that you can ignore the message itself. That is the easy way out. Okay, if we spend so much time saying, I don't like the way you said this, and you have people who are in a position of power, a position of privilege, you have people who, quite frankly, they benefit from this corrupt system. And they're telling the people who are trying to advocate for equity that you need to ask nicely. You should be respectful when you ask. I've been asking nicely since 2019, and it has not gotten me anywhere. And it is a luxurious position to be in, for you to be someone who benefits from this system, to tell other people that they have not asked for equity nice enough. Because you're in a position where you can continually move the goalposts, where you can sit there and instead of rolling up your sleeves and fixing the problem, you can just spend all your energy on whether or not people have asked nice enough. And my question, parents, if these candidates really believe in equity the way they say they believe in equity, then why do people have to beg and grovel and bow and curtsy and speak the King's English in order to get equity? Why can't we just have equity because it's the right thing to do? Instead of spending all this time critiquing how someone asked for equity, why don't we just fix the problem? Why don't we just roll up our sleeve and say, why is this happening? This is wrong. It needs to stop. So I'm calling on allies. I know you're out there. I've talked to you. Some of you've contacted me. I can't do this fight on my own. If there's anything I've learned over this past year is that I can't do this fight on my own. I need you allies. I need your support. I need someone who is going to email the principal and say this needs to get fixed. I'm tired of this. This is not what diversity is. Diversity is more than just having people physically in the building. We have to move from a goal of diversity to a goal of equal access, a goal of inclusion. We have to move to that. And I'm calling all allies. I'm asking for your vote. And I'm not just asking for your vote. I'm asking for your continued support in coming to LSC meetings and emailing the principal, emailing the district, and saying this is unacceptable and this needs to be fixed. My name is Rosalind Walker, and I'd appreciate your vote.